Hi everybody, my name is Vinny and I'm a senior staff member at Laurel Music Camp. I first attended Laurel as a camper in 2009 and I've been on the staff since 2012. My role at camp is helping out with the woodwind and brass players in the band and the orchestras. I do some emergency instrument repairs, I help out with sectionals, and really I just try to make sure students are breathing well, forming good embouchures, and articulating smoothly and evenly. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the two regionals etudes for Connecticut for bassoon, one of which is by a composer named Brahms, and it's a minuet, and the other by a composer named Otzi, and it is an allegro assai. These two etudes are very different. Even though they're in the same book, they're from different composers and different styles, so we'll kind of be talking about that. So first, I'm going to play it for you, and then we're going to talk about them. Here we go. The first thing I want to talk about for the Otzi is the tempo marking. Allegro assai. What does that mean? I'd be willing to bet that a lot of you watching this video haven't really looked that up, and that's okay, I'm going to help you with it. Allegro does not mean fast, it means happy. And assai means very. So this is a very happy etude. It doesn't need to be nothing, it just needs to sound light, happy, and moving forward. And the reason we don't want to go too fast is this weird grace note with the trill on a 16th note. If you go too fast, it just becomes a mess. So what I do is I place a triplet on that grace note. So I go da da dee da dee da deem. I'm also posting on my website, quietcornermusicstudio.com/CMEA, a page of practice patterns to get this. Because what I do is first I make sure the grace note is timed right. Da da dee da dum. Then I practice just the triplet. So I go dee da dum, da dee da dum. So I know that the grace note is exactly, or the triplet is exactly just on that first 16th note. Da dee da dee da dum. Then I start to pair that together. La da dee da dee da dum. La da da dee da dee da 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 dee dum dum. Some fingerings to talk about. When you're doing that trill from B flat to C, I recommend just lifting your third finger. So go la da dee da dum. The next one is straightforward. That one's fine. And then the last one of those, the D to E flat, I would do just my third finger. It'll sound smoother. So you go la da dee da dum. The last couple measures, let's see, the last 4.5 measures, make sure they're really light. And you want to phrase to the downbeat of the measure and then away to the second measure. So you go bum bum beep bum bum ba dee bum ba beep bum ba dum bum bum. And just like in the Brahms, I would practice this as D, F, E flat, G, D, F, C, E flat, B flat, D, A, C, B flat, and then I would do 3-note sections repeating that lower note. Be really careful with this. So that same phrasing kind of applies in the beginning, except because we have the scale coming away at the end of the first measure. I would just go be da 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 dee da dee da dee da dee da dum. La da da dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 dum. But then we go back to hairpin phrasing. Dee da 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 dee da dee da 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 dee dum. And that should help. That's really all you need for this one. This one is much more simple. It's just get that triplet on the first 16th note, not too slow, not too fast, and watch your tempo. I think if you do that, you'll be really good. We're going to talk about the Brahms Minuetto. So right off the bat, you probably heard in my recording that I was playing 2 parts. Where did that second part come from? These Brahms etudes were actually movements from suites or sets of pieces for unaccompanied flute or bassoon. So it really is a piece of music. It's not just a bunch of notes to play. Now, what you heard me play as the second bassoonist was Pachelbel's canon. Do, sol, la, mi, fa, do, fa, sol, do. We know that well. It's used in weddings everywhere, and a lot of string players we know have played that same bass line. Well, that's what this is based off. Except for the first 12 measures after the repeat, this is just 4 versions of that same harmonic progression with us playing something over it. Now, I want you to look at the first, third, and fifth measures, and you should notice that the second note corresponds with the Pachelbel pattern. So we have C as our second note, G, A as our second note, E, F as our second note. Now in the second, fourth, sixth, and eighth bars, the Pachelbel note is the last one, right? In that second measure we have D, C, B, A, G. There's our second note. The only exception is in the 7th measure, the Pachelbel note is the first one, it's the A. It's the only time where the Pachelbel note is really on a beat, except for that last G. So those last 2 measures, we want to really show that the important note is on the beat. So play with this, with either somebody playing the bass line or with you playing the bass line and then the melody. I posted it on my website and there should be a link for you, but it's quietcornermusicstudio.com/CMEA. All right, some technical things I want to talk about. The trills. So the first one, D to E, I would add the upper pinky key for the left hand and then trill with the second finger. You could do it without the pinky key, it just won't sound as good. So if you add that, it'll sound nice. B to C, completely normal. G to A, leave this pinky down. Do E, and it should work just fine. Then the B to C is the same. In the measures that follow the second half of this first section, the notes that look like grace notes but don't have slashes are called appoggiaturas. This comes from the Italian word appoggiare, which means lean. So these are dissonant notes that we lean upon. So in that 9th and 10th measure, you should think beam, bum, 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 beam, beam, and etc. through that. All right, after the repeat, starting that 5th measure, we have these big jumps. In the 5th measure, where we're jumping up to the D, just make sure you lift the whisper key for the upper D. In the next measure, we're going up to C, still no whisper key, but make sure you're using your pinky on the upper E's. In the next measure, I would recommend using the shortest possible F sharp fingering, just the second finger on the left hand, and then 1, 2, F on the right hand. I call this one the French one. It gets a brighter sound, but more importantly, it articulates very easily, which will make these jumps easier. In the next measure, I would practice these jumps up to the G by first playing the E, then stopping, rolling your E to where you think the half hole is, then adding the other fingers. If you articulate the G and it comes right out, then you know you're half holing really well. Make sure you practice that slowly because you don't want to chip all the high Gs. Now this next measure is the tricky one. We're going up to the high A because we need the whisper key on the F sharp and the D, otherwise they'll be out of tune, they'll be a little sharp, a little stuffy, and they might crack. But we need the 2 thumb keys for the high A, the C sharp and the A key. So practice this as F sharp, A, D, A, F sharp, A, G with those pauses. Then practice 3 notes at a time. F sharp, A, D, D, A, F sharp, A, G. And practicing it slowly to make sure it's really comfortable in your fingers. Then in the last 2.5 measures, when you have the bum 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 bum, we want it to sound like it's 2 different voices. And the way I do that is I make all the notes full value, but I really lean on the lower note. Da 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 dum. And I do that through that whole line. So now something musical I want to talk about. The second to last line, those last 2 measures, these articulation markings are not Brahms. They were put in by the editor of this book, and I think they're wrong. So in that second to last measure, if you were to take out the second note of each beat, you would get ta 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 tum. And so the last note is serving as a passing tone. So I think when we add the note in, we should keep that same tonguing pattern, ta ta ta. So I would slur the A B A, the F G F, and the D E D. Ti ta ta ya ta ta ya ta ti ta tam. In the next measure, I would also slur all the way to the D because the C is serving as a passing tone, not a calm resolution. So you want it to lead to the last note of the slur. Now, you have to weigh that when you're thinking about an audition, because if it's an audition and somebody is listening to you and they're not thinking musically, they're just trying to make sure you do what's on the page, right? Then they might take points off for you adding that slur, even though it makes it more musical, it makes it more stylistically accurate, and it more accurately reflects what the composer put. So you kind of have to make that choice. I would never fault someone for doing what's on the page, but I also think it's worth considering what the most musical option is. So that's what I would do when I'm working on the Brahms. So to wrap up, in the Brahms, make sure you're thinking musically and you're hearing that bass line pattern, and you're being really careful about how you approach those high notes. In the Ozzy, be really careful about how you place the triplet on the first 16th note, and make sure you phrase to the downbeat and away to beat 2. I wish you all the best of luck in your preparations, and I hope to see you the next time we have Laurel Music Camp back in person, which will hopefully be June of 2021. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.